action on September 22nd, 2022 at 6:32 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Coffey. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic by which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Moving on to roll call. Vice President Kirby Gonzalez.
Present.
I am present. Clerk Venegas.
Present.
Trustee Pizzotti.
I'm here.
All right. Announcements of actions taken in closed session. Government Code Section 54957. Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, Information Received. Government Code Section 54957.6. Conference with Labor Negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and Management, Information Received. Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, pending or potential litigation, information received, and Government Code Section 5495 and direction provided. Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Superintendent Annual Goals Update, information received. So those are the actions taken in closed session. Do I have approval of the agenda? Before doing so, are there any amendments to the agenda? No? Okay, seeing that there are none, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as published.
I move.
So Trustee Pizzotti moves.
I second.
Clerk Venegas seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Budget is adopted. Communications and celebrations. Celebration of the new Washington Unified School District Newcomer Center. Ms. Stacy Tran, Director of English Learners. Our multilingual learner. All of the learners. You might have to press the button.
Okay, better. I'll start over. Good afternoon, President Wong, Superintendent Hildreth, and West Sac community. I am overjoyed to be here to celebrate our Washington Unified Newcomer Center tonight. I feel like it was just under a year ago that I met with Dr. Hildreth for the very first time, and she said, "What is your dream? If you had one wish for the English learners of West Sacramento, what would it be?" And I was aiming for the stars, and I said, well, a center for our newcomer students. And I talked to her, and we kind of shared some of our dreams, and here we are a year later. It's happening, and it's thriving. So I'm really excited to be able to present to you. Oh, and I'm doing the slides. So in terms of aligning to the strategic plan of Washington Unified, the Newcomer Center literally ticks every single box, but I've bolded some of the areas that really stood out to me. So in terms of supporting the whole child and making sure our kids grow up healthy, safe, challenged, and supported, that is one of our main goals of the Newcomer Center. Also, the elimination of disproportionalities. In the past, newcomers had been overlooked a lot of times in Washington Unified, especially during the pandemic. Their needs were not being met. So I'm really pleased that now we have a program where they're not only surviving, but really thriving and excelling. It's a safe and equitable climate, and we're ensuring that our students, staff, and families feel valued, accepted, and supported, and we're celebrating individual uniqueness. When I presented last spring, I projected where I thought our students would come from, and here's a map of where the current student population of our Newcomer Center previously resided. When I made this slide last week, we had 30 students. Now we're up to 33. We had one new family join us. So 10% of our students are from Mexico, 6% are from South America, and 84% are from Afghanistan. I met with our homeschool liaisons today, and they said that they are hearing that we're getting a lot more immigrants coming from Venezuela. So I anticipate that that will be our next wave. And I'm happy to say we have 33 students in the Newcomer Center, but we have room for 50. So we can definitely accommodate them. Some of the keys to the success so far of our center have been highly equipped teaching staff. Our amazing teachers, Tiffany Keller and Carolee Churchill, collaborate together regularly. They have prep periods, thanks to Kristen Rodriguez and Martina Guerra, who have aligned their prep periods at least once a week, so they can really plan together with their two bilingual paraeducators. We have Ms. Josai Poposai and Soma Walisada, who have joined our team, and they support students daily. So the team of 4 is able to collaborate together and really plan for instruction and how to best support our students and families. We have targeted, engaging content. They're in the process of doing one of our keystone species units of study. They're doing sharks, which we did a few summers back. The kids are highly engaged. They surprisingly have a lot of background knowledge, and they're building academic vocabulary. If you go to Riverbank and see these classrooms, the walls are plastered with academic vocabulary, not just in teacher writing, but also in student writing. The kids are learning, the kids are writing, they're speaking, and it's amazing. We have leveled phonics instruction going on. We have flexible math groupings. We have language-rich STEAM activities. So kids are learning their content level standards in a way that's accessible to them. They're able to do hands-on activities, they're interacting, they're getting excited. Every time I go in the classrooms, they're full of smiles, and the kids are doing all of the talking. The classrooms are innovative. We have multifunctional mobile furniture on the way. It's on order, of course, due to the supply difficulties that have happened. It's coming, but I'm really excited because it will be modular, so we're able to provide lots of flexible groupings for the students and the paraeducators as well to support those students. And then we also will have an SEL corner in each of the classrooms with comfy seating and just calm down activities, some soft toys to play with. So the kids really, if they need a break, they can go take a break and take care of their needs, but also just a warm, inviting place for the kids to just hang out. And finally, we have community collaborations. We're working with the Yolo County Children's Alliance, and we have some Victor Services presentations on the calendar that I'm excited to bring to our students. Our teachers, here they are, and they're fantastic. I will not read the quotes to you, but Carolee Churchill, who teaches our 5th through 8th graders, said that the biggest impact she's seen the Newcomer Center have on her students so far is their increase in confidence. The kids entered very timid and shy and not wanting to engage, but now it's loud, they're engaging, they're participating, and she loves it. They're taking risks, they're trying new things, and they're using all of the academic vocabulary that's being taught. And then Tiffany Keller, who teaches our 1st through 4th grade class, she was highlighted in the amazing attendance awareness video that went out a couple weeks ago. And she says that the goal of the program is that kids would feel supported and that our classrooms would be inclusive and celebrate the diversity. And really, as you saw on the world map, the majority of our students, as predicted, come from Afghanistan. But really, it's a welcoming community. Everyone's accepting of everyone else. And the students are willing to work with any partner in the class. In fact, last week I had the opportunity to go visit with Trustee Barnes, and we went from the upper grade class where they were doing leveled guided reading groups, not even a month into school. They had assessed the students, they had leveled the students, and about 2/3 of the students were working independently with a paraeducator circulating. The teacher had a group of 4 or 5 students on target. They were reading, they were journaling. It was amazing. We walked from there into Ms. Keller's class, and the students were having a little SEL moment where they were talking about empathy. And she said, what are some things that you can say to friends if you want to show them empathy, if someone's feeling sad? And I heard these kids who've been in the country less than a year say things like, don't cry, I'll be your friend. Is everything okay? Do you want to come play with me? So it was just so affirming that we're not just teaching them English, we're teaching them so much more, and we're giving them exactly what they need. Here are some pictures, because I can't do a presentation without a lot of pictures. So the top 2, left and right, were the first day of school, Ms. Keller's class and Ms. Churchill's class. The top middle is one of our amazing paraeducators working with a student. The bottom left and right are some of the STEM activities. They were folding note cards and balancing little trucks on top to see how tall they could build the tower without it falling. And just look at the smiles, first of all, but just all the academic language that's being built there. And then in the middle, you may recognize Trustee Barnes came to visit and was able to observe the guided reading lesson as well. And of course, our students are so cool. Thanks to Yorgos and his generous donation of some WSD swag. Their future is very bright. They're wearing their shades. And we have a lot more planned for the Newcomer Center, and I'm excited to come back hopefully at the end of the year and give you a progress update on some student data. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
No, thank you, Ms. Tran. Look to the board. Thank you so much for your commitment. And I just want to be clear that you opened it during COVID. You did the planning. So thank you for your, I always cry when I talk to you. Just thank you for the commitment to our community and fulfilling our vision. So thank you for sharing. And for young people who don't know what your future is, What's So Bright is an 80s song. Google it, and you'll know what that reference is to. Okay, moving on to student association reports. Do we have Elliot House on? Hi, Elliot. Please join us at the dais. You should be up here.
Right up here, my man.
Yeah. Oh. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? House. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you all for having me here. So today, I'm here to just give you guys a little presentation on what's going on with NWSD with all of our schools. So, yeah. Oh, perfect. There we go. All right, so in Bridgeway, they're starting their peer tutoring
You're all right, man. It's all right. No,
peer tutoring elective with Miss Rooney, and they're spending time learning skills to be peer tutors, like 8th graders for kindergartners and such. The Bridgeway Island Bees Thrive, so that's their what's the word? That's their motto, right? And that's what they go by. So right now, this week is T, which means team player for them. So that's what their students are working on. Also, they have children's literature that they're working on, where 8th grade students are having their own book, and they're amazing picture books that they will be sharing with real-world audiences. So some examples are at the top, some digital ones that they've made, and then an ABC book about women's leaders throughout history. In Riverbank, so they're doing tutoring outreach, where students come week to week to work with K through 8 students in classrooms to just tutor them, give them any advice they need. Their leadership from 6th to 8th grade is doing orientation, rallies, lunchtime activities, and welcoming students at the main gate to start their day. Their 4th to 5th grade Otter ambassadors are making classroom presentations for their elementary school kids, and are starting a buddy program to encourage positive relationships. Their student clubs, so what clubs they have right now are Bike Club, Art Club, Guitar Club, Anime Club. These are student-led with these advisors helping them out along the way, where they're making connections and building relationships after school. In Elkhorn, they've spent some time this month demonstrating responsibilities with their students to highlight their work. And then their school is working forward to their kickoff event on September 30th, which is a great team building event where all students get to participate and learn the value of hard work, and they're excited for it. In Southport, they're doing their soaring event this year, so they're safe, organized, aspiring, and respectful. They have their kickoff event, which was success, with their students and then their staff, which cheered them on during a lip sync battle, which was very cool. And then they had some field day activities for all their students. 6th to 8th grade, they were gathering on Tuesdays to do a kindness club, so that should be cool. They have their Duck Squad, which is like a welcoming committee, I believe, and they're greeting visitors on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings to give them a positive face when they walk into school. Their mentoring program is going underway with 7th grade volunteers mentoring like 1st grade to 3rd grade kids, help them out, give them any pointers for elementary school. And they're having a great time with their football and volleyball teams as they play to get to playoffs. At Stonegate, they have 18 English language learners who were reclassified this school year, and they're excited to celebrate and honor their hard work in learning English. They also have Amazon Reads volunteer program, who donated a bunch of books, stickers, and small backpacks to their entire 3rd grade class. And they are currently working on starting back up their Stonegate Garden, which provides educational opportunities for all their grade levels to learn about healthy snacks such as watermelon, peppers, tomatoes, corn, and much more. And they put that stuff in their salad bar for their students to eat. At Westmore Oaks, they're fortunate to keep their weekly rallies going. So they invite you all to attend from Fridays from 8:15 to 8:30. And then they also celebrate Amanda Pulaski, their PTSA president, and all their volunteers for their first movie Friday night last week. The event was a success, and they're excited to do much more. At Westfield, their amazing outreach specialists celebrated 130 first through fifth graders who have had great attendance this past month and a half, I think it's been about a month and a half, I feel like. It feels longer, but it's not that long, I think. Their fourth grade has also had the best overall attendance, which is 80%. They all got a pizza party from Miss B. Their first play, and we had our first PBIS dance. They had their first PBIS dance last week. Preschool through 8th grade had a blast. And then they have 24 English language learners who have also been reclassified. So the Virtual Academy, or WUVA, they have their first 6 weeks have been pretty good. They've been able to come to campus to meet their teachers for an orientation for 2 in-person days. They've welcomed 4 new staff, Miss Anaya for 4th grade, Miss Carranza for 5th grade, Miss Rosie for 6th grade, and Coach P for 8th grade PE. And they're looking forward to their upcoming events such as Personal Learning Day, Sammy's Circuit in-person assembly, and Student of the Month Awards assembly that is coming up in September. Sorry, I got confused for a second, but thank you. Then they're also celebrating students with their iReady personalized instruction goals for math and reading that they took earlier this year. I remember taking that. That was fun. Next, please. Washington Adult School, they've had many great things to celebrate this for their first month. Miss Jackson's pre-apprentice construction training has built a little library and bike racks for all of their students. They also have 2 student graduates from high school diploma and have 2 more students already prepared to take their GED later this month. One of their students was also enrolled in a citizenship class and have gotten their citizenship. Their ELL classes are setting goals for college, careers, and life. Their teachers are high flex hybrid, learning to engage more and be more innovative. And they've got some great new benches in their quad. And I believe they have a little bit of a video for you guys.
The weather in the North region are pretty throughout the year. Universal video.
We have YOLO High School. They've had their meeting with the Student Superintendent's Advisory Council on Tuesday to get feedback for their strategic plan. They'd like to thank Ms. Coronel for organizing their extended learning opportunity for 15 students to visit Sac City College. And then their first handball tournament is underway, and almost every day their Coach Dennis has been leading it, and the tournament is not happening. Our students are even practicing daily. Oh, when it's not happening, our students are practicing daily, so they seem very excited about that. With Washington Middle, they've kicked off their amazing back-to-school night. They packed the cafe. Their ASB gave a campus tour, and parents ate tacos. Great. Maybe not 108-degree weather, but sounds great. They're building a school culture and climate with a welcoming space with new banners, signage to represent their school. They're building their school leadership in ASB. 20 students will be attending the California Associate of Student Leaders Conference on October 4th to help them learn and build. All students, including their freshmen, are enrolled in college classes and attending Sac City College to get college credits, obviously. And several of their seniors are on track to receive an AA degree by the end of the year. River City, so I'm going to be able to tell you guys a little bit more about this one. So today we had our Club Rush, which was a way for our clubs to get out and get to know their school and to advertise themselves. So basically what they did was they set up posters and we set up tables and they had signups for everybody. And it was a good event, I feel like. It was very positive, and I feel like there were a lot of signups. Also with River City, we have our homecoming week coming up next week with our first ever multicultural rally to celebrate the diversity at River City. So that should be great. And then we have our football game the night after, or the night of. And then we have the dance next Saturday. That should be fun. And thank you.
I did.
Oh, very cool. Thank you very much. I think we need a lot right now, but
I did. I volunteered last year. Nobody took me up on it because somebody has to chaperone the adults.
yeah. Oh.
So. Elliot, no, you won't chaperone me? No? I may embarrass you.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's gonna be a busy day, right?
Yeah, it's probably going to be pretty busy.
Okay. You're welcome to stay as
Okay.
part, as the rest of the board. Since you are our student board member, you can actually provide input and ask questions
Right? Sounds good.
as a board member. So please
you.
stay as long as you can, assuming you've done all your homework. Parents want me to
got a
ask
little
that
bit.
question, right?
You good?
Make sure.
I got a little bit, but
There are no
I'll be
tests
okay.
tomorrow. Okay, good. We are going to move on to the item number 2, WSTA report. Always tough to go back after the student report, I know.
I like how slow this is. It makes me feel tall. I'll just wait for the effect. I have to say, I just want to acknowledge the student report. It's always a reminder of why we're all here, but also the capacity of our students and you tonight, Elliot. It continues to remind me that we're in good hands for the future. We've had some troubled political times over the last, for a long time. And seeing students who are so well-spoken and passionate and are willing to get involved and come to a late-night school board meeting. I can tell you, of all the things you're going to experience in life, school board meetings might not be the most thrilling. But the fact that you're here is exciting to me. I also wanted to, I don't think I've ever done this, but one of our shining stars in our school district, and I don't think, at least I don't say it enough, is Stacy Tran. I have been so impressed by what Stacy has done for our language learners, for summer school, and this welcoming center is everything WUSD should be, everything. So Stacy, I want to thank you for your work. I am so proud to be in WUSD when I see you up here presenting. So thank you. I also tonight want to welcome our WSTA endorsed candidate for school board, Virginia Coffey. We're happy to have her here meeting people. She's a passionate community member who's lived in West Sacramento her whole life. She's bilingual, and she's a wonderful person. So I hope folks take a time to get to know her. I think, oh, by the way, hi, everybody. Good evening. I forgot to mention, I need to thank Jackie for pushing me around in my wheelchair during the back to school event. It was a good show of WSTA, WUSD solidarity, and a good photo op. It was and so thank you, Jackie. We can all agree that there's a direct correlation between student success and low student to teacher ratios. Study after study bears this out, but we all know it from experience as well. In the past, WUSD has maintained a policy of not exceeding class size averages unless there was no other choice. I will use Bridgeway Island, because it's my school, as an example, because an enrollment in Bridgeway, as you all know, has always been strained and bursting at capacity. In the past, once a kindergarten class, for example, had reached its negotiated class size average. Now, that's not the maximum of class size can be, but it's what we all agree should be the average. In the past, any students over 24 for kindergarten, it's different for different grades, would get overflowed to a school that had the resources to support those students and the class sizes that was appropriate for students based on what WUSD endorses as a class size average. And that was It helped balance the class sizes in the region, which benefited all schools, those short on enrollment and those bursting at the seams alike. In the past, all overflow students would have their place reserved in a queue so that when vacancy became available, they would be able to return to their home school. If they had the desire to do so. Currently, some of the class sizes are being filled to overage caps, while others are left a quarter empty. This means that we are having to pay teachers quarterly overage. All of the students in those classes that are full are negatively impacted. I am hearing reports of Williams Act violations as well. Teachers are short on desks, curriculum, and space. Meanwhile, there are schools, some within a mile or two in some circumstances, that are 6 or more students below capacity. This doesn't make sense. It's not good for students. This is especially the case in a time when our district is trying to improve student outcomes after 2 years of COVID and, to be frank, not the greatest scores on state benchmarks. Now, we're not alone. I'm not pointing fingers at WUSD. It's a tough time. And benchmarks are not everything. But we know, we talk about that in school board meetings, and I've heard the board ask what we need to do to address these issues. Well, one thing is not filling classes over capacity, and we know that from research. WUSD cabinet members have stipulated that one reason that this enrollment policy is to avoid having to collapse classes. Again, this doesn't make sense to me. If anything, returning to an overflow transfer policy that would help balance class sizes and would minimize grade collapses. If there's a school with low enrollment and nearby there's a school bursting and overflowing, we should make every effort to create that balance. It's not going to collapse classes, it's going to create balance. At the school board meeting at the end of August, we learned about the first new ongoing funds for transportation in a very, very long time. I was excited to hear about that. Because as we know, and it's funny because class size is another one of these. A lot of these times the funds go away and they never come back. And we had that happen with the class size funding when we were down at 20, right? We have the resources to help parents who might have trouble with transportation if there's an overflow situation. Our goal is to maximize student outcomes. We have to do everything within our power to stabilize low class sizes. Sure, every effort may not be the most convenient solution to our enrollment issues, but we all know it is the right thing to do for students to do our best to maintain. And we won't, and we didn't in the past. You can't always. You're going to have overages here or there. And I've had 25 in my class in the past. But it makes absolutely no sense for 2 miles away from my school to have a second grade class with 18 students. And at my school, we have a class with 26 students and not enough books, curriculum, chairs, desks. It's something that we can do something about, and it might not be something we can, I want to be like transparent. We might not be able to do it presently because the idea of transferring kids in the middle of a year and upending their education, that is not something that I would be interested if parents were not interested in that. However, looking forward to the future, I think this is something that we've done well in the past and we were able to manage class sizes, and I'd like us to look at it again. I want to say that we're all really proud of the growth and development of one of our newest schools, which is Washington Middle College High School. This is a program that is modernizing our district and providing educational pathways for our high schoolers. I have listened to trustees celebrate Washington Middle College High School's accomplishments at numerous board meetings, and rightly so. However, I have recently, and this might be news to you, so this is why I'm not pointing fingers here, heard WSTA members who have brought numerous concerns forward to myself and my cabinet in my organization that WMCHS's trajectories are unsustainable. My understanding is that schedules are incredibly difficult to navigate, and resources, there is potential for FTE understaffing, and especially for our SPED students' services, and their SPED student services are sparse and non-existent. Like I said, it's a new school, and we might not know about these things, and it's tricky when we're dealing with charters, right? Because you're looking at a contract on one side and the charter on the other side, and sometimes there's gray area in between. And even for my organization, we're like, well, I don't know if that area of the contract covers you, because is that in your charter or is that not? But what I wanted to talk to you tonight about is about being proactive at looking at the renewal of the charter, not questioning the renewal, but looking at what we have to do to maintain this exciting new institution in West Sacramento. We want it to succeed. We don't want those teachers to burn out. The schedules I'm hearing about, especially on their Fridays, are just, they're nightmarish. And I will tell you, every single Washington Middle High School teacher, to a person that I've talked to, has told me they don't want to leave Washington Middle. They love the opportunity it affords for their students. They love the creativity it gives them. We need to make sure they keep saying that, because they're starting to come and they're starting to tell me that there's problems. And it's the nature of a school like this. And again, this is another, I'm giving a free pass to the cabinet. I'm giving a free pass to the board. I'm giving a free pass to myself. It's the nature of schools like this to kind of live in a bubble off on their own. And oftentimes we don't hear what's going on because they have a different charter, because they're so different, because in their nature, what makes them great is that they're different and they're kind of doing their quiet work. So it's upon us as leadership to make sure that we reach out and we find out what's going well and what needs to be tweaked. Because it's so new, things are going to need to be tweaked. We can't just assume status quo moving forward. So this is just kind of a beginning of a discussion that I'm hoping we're going to continue having on Washington Middle College High School. I've invited teachers to come and give a report in the future. I don't know if someone may have come tonight, I'm not sure, but they will be either doing that. If it's an extensive report, I'll be giving up some of my time. If it's not so extensive, they can use public comment to do so. But the point here is to create a positive dialogue so that this amazing new school that we have can continue to be amazing and become even more amazing. And with that, that's all I have tonight. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to second association report, TCA. Daniel.
Good evening. It's been a long time. Good evening, Superintendent Hildreth, Trustee President Wong, and Trustee. I want to go off President Knapp's about staffing. We would also like to see staffing ratios, and again, I'll go off Bridgeway. Bridgeway has a lot more students than other sites, but the same staffing as the other sites, right? I hate microphones. I talk loud anyway. So we'd like to see that too, right? I mean, you have 2 secretaries at Bridgeway and 2 secretaries at other sites with 700 less students and families that they have to look over. And also with the new law that was passed for funding just for transportation, I like to say CSA had a role in that at the Capitol there, as I'm sure Trustee Pizzotti will know.
They didn't do a press release here.
So that is exciting, right? And then my next update is communications. I would like to work with human resources. And as you guys know, we have a bilingual syllabi literacy that members are passing currently, and it's going to take effect October 1st. I just had a relations meeting Tuesday. We would like to work with the communication, and I would also like administrators to also be updated on Article 1815.1, where it does not state that there will be a broken up into increments of time, the stipend, right? It's not broken up into quarters, it's hourly. So I think that communication coming across would save a whole lot of unnecessary meetings and time that really HR doesn't have and I don't have because we all have other jobs to do, right? And then going off new hires, I see on the board agenda we are hiring 4 new paraeducators. I know with previous management, we were starting new hires on step C, and we were starting them on step C on their salary schedule. That way we can attract more people and be competitive in retention and recruitment in the market. And I see we've kind of swayed from that. So I would like to look at that and bring that back. And then just the last thing, again, I know it's been talked about for a few months now, and I'm asking the board, an organizational chart. We need an organizational chart, right? We need a chart that has all upper management, directors, supervisors, all these positions. And I would ask this, positions that are grant funded, I would like an asterisk with it for the years of the grant. And I will say this very broadly. I have been in, as you guys know, I'm in a lot of interview panels, and there has been interviewees who have asked how long the grant is. And there's 2021 to 24, 3 years. But don't worry, we'll find funding after that. Well, you're not going to find it on the backs of classified. So where are we finding the funding on, and why are we giving a false commitment to people on a fund, on a grant fund? So I would also like, I would like an organizational chart so we can see where the management is compared to other staff. With that, you guys have a good evening, and see you guys next time.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to item L, public comments. And before we go there, I will read our disclaimer. So members of the public may address the board on the topics of our board agenda during every meeting. In addition, during regular meetings, the public may also address any topic within the jurisdiction of the board. Please know the board is listening to your comments, but by law cannot meaningfully respond to in this forum to items not on the agenda. The board may limit the total time for public comment input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it waives the item limit for any item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic unless amended. The board respects the rights of members of the public to speak regarding matters within its jurisdiction. However, please recognize that comments regarding students other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be a violation of the student's right to privacy, and thus the speaker may be legally liable. If you reference a student's name other than your own student, you may be deemed out of order. Furthermore, it is important for the public to understand that negative derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in a public board meeting, may be actionable civil defamation. Although the board may not prohibit such comments, board policy allows the public to lodge complaints against district employees, providing more opportunity to be heard than is allowed under the open meeting law that governs this meeting. I understand that there are no pre-submitted public comments, but there are 2 members of the public who signed up. So, Mario, please call them in order.
Yes, we have 2 requests. The first comment request is from Ruth Pagano. Yes, please note the timer is up here just to bring it to your attention. And I will start it now.
Good evening. It's nice to be here. Thank you for letting me share. So first, I wanted to say my gratitude in the fact that Narcan is now available on our campus. We received this notification this week from our school nurse. The message was concise. It was about how to recognize a possible overdose and how to administer a dose. This is a treatment that can prevent a death. So thank you. Thank you to the board and our administration for being proactive in this action. On that note, fentanyl deaths are still on the rise throughout the country. It is one, if not the leading cause of death for 15 to 45-year-olds, and most that talk publicly about these deaths say they wish they would have known more about this horrible drug. So if possible, I would like to request that the district put out like a health beat or an info blurb or a news flash in particular to these health crises that a lot of parents may not know, they may not understand. They may not realize what fentanyl looks like or how now it comes in rainbow-colored pills. In different languages, that would also be greatly appreciated. I also want to add to what President Knepp and President Gandara said about the large class sizes. This also affects students' mental health. You are all very intelligent and can understand how those effects can happen, but they're not just in the classroom. They're in the cafeterias. They're on the playgrounds. And I would appreciate greatly looking at that, not only the staff ratio, but then how students' mental health plays a role in those larger class sizes at those larger schools, and do whatever you can within your power to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Second public comment?
Yes, the second request is from Mr. Colin Malik.
Good evening, board. In lieu of only 2 public comments, I would respectfully ask an additional time to cover my 7 items. I will try to keep it as quick as possible, obviously. Please keep in mind K-8 class sizes at Bridgeway Island are continuing and are bursting. There are actual places that are lacking for students. There are literal spaces and places that are in lack. So please keep that in mind as you are moving forward with trying to deal with the subject. I would like to reiterate Washington Middle College High School that students walk out of that with an AA, having taken at least 8 classes and are prepared above and beyond what you might consider normal standard high school rote education, in that they can literally enter UC Davis going into a chemistry program, declared major, as a junior. That is something that we should advocate, highlight, spotlight, and shine light on, and also make sure we are attaching resources to that to help those students and those teachers, especially, who are doing that vital, as Doug said, quiet work. We're kind of out of the heat, which is nice. I would like the board and Ed Services to please reconsider and reassess the potentiality of a 90-degree cap at the recess metric. We're kind of through the heat right now, but I would like them to just maybe in the spring to please reconsider. It's probably not in factor right now, raising that 90-degree metric. There's ways around that, additional water breaks or things like that, where we can move above and beyond the 90 degrees metric of not having outside play. We know it's vital for our K-8 students to have that play time. A quick strike item for you to consider at River City. I just did a quick look on Aries ABI. 2,220 total students divided by 2 lunches is roughly 1,110 students on early and late lunch, with only cafeteria, F Commons, and outdoor spaces available. A quick strike item for WUSD to consider is more shade and more seating in those pavilion areas. I think that would be an awesome, vital add as well. It's a value add, as well as give some of those club spaces and our communities that are smaller and more diverse opportunities to congregate, relax, and enjoy as well. The shade structure is very limited. My 5th item out of 7. Please keep in mind and please do the best you can to help the inordinate amount of unresolved personnel issues with HR. They are clearly needing more additional support, whether in personnel or time and resources. Please help and work with HR to allocate said resources so that they can return that vital job of making sure that they have the appropriate personnel, rather than things that maybe they are finding themselves tasked with doing otherwise. 2 last items in 6 seconds, and please give me 30 more seconds. Big shout out to Paul Dennis. If you have not seen what he has done over at YOLO, please go see Paul Dennis and the handball shout out. Since 1996, that man has been vital to the community in emphasizing and bringing in our youth who flourish under the handball courts and his tournaments that he's made. Last but certainly not least, CSEA getting stepped down on pay is a concern, with $24 million in restricted and unrestricted funds coming from the state government, along with WUSD having otherwise flush budget projections. Please attract, retain, and retain the best and brightest of our CSEA brethren. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for the extension, President Wong. Thank you very much.
I gave you a minute.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item M, public hearing. Public hearing, sufficiency and instructional materials, Williams Act. Opening it up. Oh, I'm assuming there were no, thank you, Elliot. Oh, okay, I believe that there's one point of, oh, I'm sorry, Stan, I think that there is a confusion and we have one more public comment.
Yes, my apologies. There was confusion when the public comment was submitted. I was under the impression that it was agenda specific. The public comment speaker has since clarified that it was a general public comment. So if he could just be given the, okay, so I will set the timer right now. Mr. Kaziz Chukis.
Hello, everybody. I imagine you know what the subject matter is. It's Measure Z and how it's being handled, if you will. I'll just read one thing out of the bond that was written in the campus equity section. Complete deferred maintenance throughout campuses, including repairing or replacing deteriorating roofs, gutters, plumbing, and electrical systems. That's just one of the items that address all campuses. At the time we had Measure Z activity going on, there was a Measure Z subcommittee generated by the board. And that committee came up with a metric that identified each school and what maintenance should be done at each school and gave a dollar value for each one of those. Total sum for all the schools came out to $21 million. It had things like painting, gutter replacement. Gentleman had shades as a concern. That was in the Measure Z activity and should be included in the funding. Shade structures, fabric. Bridgeway Elementary, $295,000. Riverbank Elementary, $295,000. And each of the schools that could go down had $295,000 in shade structures alone. But the point is that there's statements in the Measure Z bond that people voted on that says all campuses. And I understand that when at the end of the day, Westfield and Elkhorn are going to be renovated, and probably rightly so. But that leaves $60 million, and $27 million has to be found to supplement the 60 to do the Arts Center. And I submit to you, the board members, 2 board members, and a whole bunch of community members came up with this $21 million that they felt they needed at each of the schools in the area. Take $21 million and make it happen, since that's what the plan was originally and documented by that committee. Thank you.
Okay. Now we will officially move on to the public hearing on the Williams Act. Welcome back, Stan.
Thank you, President Wong. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Adhering to California Education Code, pursuant to the Williams settlement, Washington Unified School District is required to hold a public hearing by the 8th week of the school year to make a determination through a resolution that every student has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials in the 4 core areas of reading, language arts, math, science, and history, social science. 5 of our schools will participate in the visitations: Elkhorn Village, Riverbank, Stonegate, Westmore Oaks, and Westfield Village. All those will be happening next week. And a public notice was published as required. And we are asking the board to hold a public hearing as required. Thank you.
Any public comment on Williams Act?
No public comments received.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee Pizzotti.
Yeah, I think we heard in the general public comment that there was concerns about Williams Act violations. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
And I don't know if you should sit down if you have questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just,
Come back.
I'm not questioning it. I'm just making a statement that if we're hearing that from staff at the facilities level, then we definitely need to make sure that we're addressing the issue and being very clear. We have, I don't think we've ever had, since I've been on the board, Williams Act violation that I can remember. So I just want to.
Yeah, so it's a clarifying question then.
Yeah.
So what were the findings of the Williams Act? Yeah.
I was going to read that during the action item.
Sorry. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I can,
this is the hearing, so I think it's
but I can. So yeah, I understand. I'm not aware of any Williams Act. None have been reported to myself. Materials is a pretty broad comment. Because there's a lot of materials that staff may need. So I have not heard those specifics myself directly, but I do, as I will read later in the action item, I do have certified signatures from all the principals that we meet those standards. So that's the data I have.
I think it was desk, chairs, curriculum, and books was what was said. So again, I would just maybe meet with the staff and
absolutely.
Make sure. All right.
Absolutely, and that's very important, Trustee Pizzotti. I think all through the years, all through the school year, there are adjustments to materials that are made, and because different things happen, different students come in, and so it is something that is a constant shift in terms of making sure that all our students have what they need. But specific to the Williams settlement, my understanding is that we have all the specifications required.
Any other clarifying questions? Having worked at an organization who worked on the Williams Act and settled it, so I think it's very bare minimum. Right? It's very just kind of basic instructional materials and parity between schools. I think, but it also doesn't kind of dismiss the concerns of like whether or not we have sufficient materials. So,
absolutely.
Okay. Are we done with any other questions before we close out the hearing? I know it's coming back for information too, but go ahead.
I might just make the comment that since Williams Act doesn't, when they come in, they don't necessarily go to every school and every classroom. And so just that it's made very clear of where people should go if they feel that they need more materials. And is that to your office?
Correct. Educational services would be the place to go. But I always recommend they start with their principal. Their principal is the best place to start. And then usually the principals will communicate to educational services, but we work with teachers directly as well, but they should always be working directly with their site administration.
And that's just one comment on that. I think to Stan's point that, we have the certification from our principals, but we will still be just checking in. Like if there's additional information that we're becoming aware of that has not risen to the ed services level, then we will be following up tomorrow just to see what additional supports might be needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing is closed. Moving on to item information and discussion items. N1, WSC enrollment and attendance. Stan, you left. You can come back.
We're back.
This is a thing. Encore. It's okay to stay here for a bit. We're not that scary, even though we're on a dais. You should know this.
No, not at all. Kind of lose track of the agenda. I do have colleagues that are going to join me up here today, so this is going to be a little bit of a tag team. We'll have Executive Director of Communications, Yorgos Kazanis, is going to join me on this, and so will Dr. Jay Burns. So both of them are going to share a part in this presentation. So tonight we're going to hear a little bit about attendance and enrollment. Oh, down. Down is forward. Okay, got it. All right. Sorry about that. You said that earlier. So all the boxes are checked in terms of alignment for our strategic plan. Attendance and enrollment, it's a big part of our goals for student success. All our equity principles, all our pillars of teaching and leadership practices, because to maximize the services and supports and all the wonderful things that our staff can do for a student, being present is a very optimal need. And so it touches all upon all those areas. In addition, I will say that this is a automatic metric for our LCAP goal number 2, school climate and culture. So attendance and enrollment are big pieces. So tonight we're going to provide an update to the Board of Education regarding some of the actions and activities designed to support student engagement and attendance. It includes some data. Of course, we're going to have a lot of data that we're going to present to you this year. So this won't be the last time that you see attendance. Very important to note that, again, this is a required metric in our LCAP. So again, you'll be seeing attendance, very important. So we're going to show you how we're doing, a little bit of a glimpse of how we're doing, even though we're only 1 month in, give you a glimpse of that, and then talk about what we're doing in terms of protocols and our supports to re-engage students to even improve upon what attendance we have. So as I was saying, attendance is the first step to engagement in a classroom. If students miss school, they lose out on valuable instructional time, not just instructional time, but also peer time, access to all the supports that we have in school. So students who miss school, they have a lot of at-risk features when they're having a bad attendance. They also require a lot of extra time from our staff, and that's a big challenge as we move forward. So it puts a big demand when we don't have the attendance where we want it to be. For us, low attendance is also a signal of inequity, or also means a lack of access within our system. So when we don't have the attendance where we need it, or if we see a student that is not having great attendance, that tells us there's other things that might be going on with this student or within our system that we need to look forward and find ways, opportunities to try to re-engage that student. So here's a little bit of data, starting with enrollment. So basically, who is here? This is who is here this year in Washington Unified School District. So our enrollment at 21-22 school year was about 7,202 students. That was at CBEDS. So when we were at CBEDS, we came in about 7,202. Right now, as of last week, I should say, when I say right now, I mean like last week, we were at 7,303. That number is going to change. So these numbers that I'm showing you can be fluid. They may not stay the same as what they are right now because we still have kids coming and going throughout the school year. But that's a difference of about 101 kids from CBEDS last year to our current enrollment now. Part of that can be attributed to our TK increase. We do have, we've increased the ages for TK students. That's about 39 students though. So even with the TK students, there still is an increase of students at Washington Unified compared to last year at this point. Looking over further to the right, you can see the brown color. That's the adopted budget projection. Of course, we'd projected a little lower than what our enrollment was last year because, as you all know, for the last 4 years, we had been declining in enrollment. In fact, probably over 4 years, we've declined an average of about 100 students a year. So we did have a lower projected adoption, but our current enrollment is above that, even higher. The difference is 125 students. I mean, those are all good things. Washington Middle College High School, they were projected to be about 184. They actually are currently at 155, so that's about a 29 student difference from last year. When you combine Washington Unified School District with Washington Middle College High School, we are about 74-45 in our students. So overall, we're pleased to see that our enrollment did not decrease at this point compared to some previous years. This is a 4-year comparison of the first month of the school year. So it's a very small snapshot of attendance. It's only about a month's worth. But just to kind of take you through the columns, if you look at 2019-20, that was the first year of COVID, but this is taking us back to August, September. At that point, COVID was not a factor with our district. So at that point, we were about 95.85%. 96% is considered pretty good attendance, so we were right there on the bubble of that. 2021, of course, is the year we were virtual during that time, so that people would not have been in person. They would have been doing this virtually. And 21-22, last school year, was the year of many, many contact tracing protocols, and that had a serious impact on attendance as well. So that moves us forward to this year. As you can see, we're a little bit, we're higher this year than last year, which is a good thing. Not quite as high as 1920. Big difference between this year and 1920, of course, though, is back in 1920, some of us, when we were a little sick, we might have powered through it and showed up. We're no longer doing that, neither students or staff, or we're not encouraging people to do that anymore. But that's probably the biggest difference between then and now. But we are encouraged that our attendance has improved a couple percentage points from last year. The next slide just kind of gives you a look at the demographics. On the left-hand column, that tells you the different groups that we have in the district, the main groups. And the next column in the middle is the group enrollment percentages. So for example, the amount of black students in the district is about 5.9% overall, and their attendance percentage for the first month of the school year was about 94.10. Going over to the last column. So if you look at all the columns, you notice that all students are at the bottom. So that's, of course, our first month average was about 94.39%. And the only two groups that are higher than that are white and Asian students. However, English learners and black students are pretty close to that percentage. And then the rest of the groups are trailing, although it looks like everybody is above 93%. So for the next slide, I'm going to turn this over to our Executive Director of Communications, Yorgos Kazanis, and he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the strategies that we're doing to engage the community around attendance.
You Stan. Good evening, trustees, superintendent, and members of the audience. So just as you heard Stan give me that quick introduction, throughout the month of September, our team has been trying to take a much more intentional, meaningful approach to our messaging that we put out there to our community, to our students, to everyone that's listening about the importance of attendance and the impact that it has for families, students, and everyone in our school community. If you remember earlier in the summer when we were talking about putting together a more detailed campaign or comprehensive campaign around this topic, the one thing that we really wanted to do was create more eye-popping visuals and graphics that we would use across both of our website, social media platforms across the board, and then use that also as we email out messaging to our families and staff as well. So what you see on the screen right now is just a few examples of some of those graphics that we've developed a lot throughout the month. The one that actually has a play button is just a still image, but it's actually an animated graphic. So what you see there when you press play is the focus of the first slides being equity, excellence, empowerment as being the new promise as part of our strategic plan. And then it ends on that final screen, which is for every student every day. And when I say we've been more intentional about the messaging that we're putting out throughout this entire month about the importance of attendance, what you see here should actually resonate with all of us in the room, because these are actually phrases that are extracted from our strategic plan and specifically our equity statement in Washington Unified as well that touch on attendance as a topic of importance as well. So the other aspect of this, and remind me if, real quick, is it down to go forward? So we'll go... Oh, there we go. So what we have on this screen is two videos. And before we hit play on the bottom one, that'll be the first one that we'll queue up. The other thing that we wanted to do throughout this month is feature individuals in our community and our schools where they can tell the story of the benefits of being in our schools, attending the classrooms, even from the perspective of both students and teachers and other staff on our campuses, and what that actually means in terms of the impact that it has every day and throughout the course of an entire year. So we're taking that idea of focusing on our why and letting that speak for itself throughout this month, rather than that more prescriptive approach of, attend school every day, you're going to get all these typical prescriptive messages that you see typically in the school world around attendance awareness. So with that, I'm going to let Mario cue up the first one with Tiffany Keller from the Newcomer Center.
Washington Unified School District. I am one of the Newcomer Center teachers. I I teach grades 1st through 4th. I have students from Venezuela, from Mexico, from Afghanistan.
The goal of the Newcomer Center is to create an environment for students to develop their English language skills, to be supported, and to create inclusive classroom community that really celebrates their diversity.
It's just a really rewarding, amazing experience to be part of.
And the next video features a student from River City High School, which was just released publicly yesterday.
I am Jasmine Luna, and I am a student at River City High School. The beginning of COVID was definitely an interesting thing to experience. I know me, including a lot of people, thought it was just going to last for a small amount of time, but it definitely didn't. I think COVID definitely did impact a lot of people's social interactions, in a sense. I think that having classes and being in high school now is really good because you're not online anymore. And you get to meet people through your classes, and you get to talk to them during lunch. Something I'm looking forward to this school year is definitely our homecoming game, and I'm so excited to see it all go down, and I really do hope we win. But it's great to meet new people and join clubs and activities, and it's super fun to just put yourself out there.
So that's just a glimpse of some of the things that we've been releasing throughout the month. We have a few more examples slated for the rest of September. But what we did again with the messaging is we also remember our conversation in the summer about incorporating some of the impacts that COVID had, and knowing that that's still kind of an elephant in the room for a lot of our community, but using examples that are real in the everyday environment in our school to showcase that there's a lot of benefit in being in school every single day, but not necessarily taking that angle of attendance every day, talking about how people are succeeding on our campuses. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Burns.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for having us here tonight. Thought I was going to be smart and come up without my glasses. Look at this picture, folks. Look at this. This is the outreach team. Okay, this is what has grown over the last couple of years. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, that's Ms. Tram. We'll celebrate her again tonight. You look amazing up there, by the way. But the parent liaisons, right? Think about that. Look at the growth on that. Come over to the right, and that is our social workers. We now have 8, right? No longer 6. We now have 8. Lower left-hand corner, we have our youth outreach specialists, okay? And then to the right, that's the whole team together. Sans a couple people. Look at that celebration. Look at the growth we have there because of the commitment from the district and commitment from everyone else. I'm going to tell you guys, I reached out to other student services directors in the region and talked to them and asked them, how many parent liaisons do you have? How many youth outreach specialists do you have? How many social workers? They really didn't want to answer, I'll be honest, because they're like, oh, you guys have that many. And I was pretty impressed. We were talking about that today, Dr. Hildreth. Very impressed. So great job on your commitment. Thank you. So I want you to think about this when we start talking about school attendance review team. And something I want to give you guys a little background is we've been meeting with the outreach team in general. Ms. Tran and I get to meet with them, and they're welcoming me in. I've past experience in other districts, but now it's getting to know this team. Like Dr. Hildreth said, I'm learning the people on the team and building relationships right now. But I want you to think about how attendance works. If a student's not in school, they don't get fed, some of our kids. They don't get fed. They don't get any connection. They don't get any positive reinforcement. They don't get the love that Ms. Keller, right, did I say it right? Tiffany was giving up there, right? That Tiffany was giving up there to these kids, the high fives, the just positive reinforcement. I want you to think about that. Education's important, but when Mr. Malik over here is coaching soccer, and spending, I caught you on your phone, but when he's coaching soccer, and he's coaching soccer, and just, you know, what they get out of that. And it could be anything from clubs. So I want you to think about it. The teacher is that first person when a student's absent, right? To make that connection, to reach out to the family. to check on them. And then our school secretary follows up with them, right? They follow up with the family. And we're trying to change our tone on this. We don't want it to be negative. We want to use a term called restorative, right? Restorative attendance, right? We want to think about this from a restorative perspective. We've been working on our SARB process, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But look at this, what comes next. Our counselors, our social workers, our youth outreach specialists, our family liaisons, everybody's reaching out, right? Even our paraeducator to check on them. We've seen our paraeducators who are one-on-ones, and they're checking. Where's Joey today? I love Joey. Where is he? I want to make sure he's okay. And that goes a long way. And we work with the parent. And then we're working with our administrator. And we've got other people. We've worked with Kelly Kajenka, right? Our youth diversion counselor. With West Sac PD, we work with Victor Community Services, right? We've got that. And I want you to think about that. And a lot of it starts with the data. It's not exciting, right? It starts with the data. When we talk about the attention to attendance, we're working with data. The expectation is that our youth outreach specialists are meeting with our school administrators at least twice a month to go over the chronic absenteeism. And they can show them who, for lack of better terms, the high flyers are, the kids who are struggling with attendance, the challenges. How many home visits have they done? How many phone calls have you made? How many conferences have you had with parents? So we're talking about all the different things. And you saw how Adine Barrera earlier was highlighted for Westfield, right? Adine was highlighted for, the attendance, the good attendance and the grade level. I've had good attendance. I didn't get pizza. I'm going to have to follow up with him tomorrow. And then we start talking about SARB. And one of the things with SARB that we're really working on with the youth outreach specialists, we're trying to rewrite it. We're even looking at our SARB letters to be more positive, right? We're a resource. This is going to be a restorative meeting when we bring the parents in. We want to talk about all the different resources that we have to support them, right? So we're talking about sharing resources. Okay, next slide, please. So think about this. I really highlighted that word outreach. Outreach. What does outreach mean? Just to reach out to someone and say you care. We miss your child. Your child's not here today. We really do care about your child. Personal connections. Putting a face on it when we go to their door, right? And just telling them how much we care. And then once again, we're going back to resources, check-ins, classroom presentations, small groups, peer mediations. I don't know how many kids just don't come to school because they feel they were bullied. So then we have talks about come to school, let us work with the social workers and administration to do a peer mediation. Let us work on this. You don't know what it is. And then as we come up here, I want you to think about this. These 4 squares up here are really important. Do we have a working contact info for all students? I don't know how many parents we reach out to, and the phone's been disconnected, right? Phone's been disconnected. So data confirmation is really important. We go to their home and they've moved, right? So it's really important as we even work with our transitions, our transitional families, and our foster youth as well, just trying to keep up, just letting them know we care. Do all the students have someone at school they trust? Are we building relationships and connections for all? Think about that. Think how important that is. For me, I just think about the different people who changed my life, and they were mentors in my life at school. I'm sorry to say I didn't go to school for math. I just went to school because it was nice to have someone tell me they cared about me. It was really nice. Do our students have access to instructional tools, adult support, and safe climate? When I heard that earlier, I know what we're going to be doing tomorrow, talking to administrators about making sure that everybody's got what they want, what they need. Instructional tools, they have access to it. It could be anything from balls on the playground, right? Playground equipment. Do we have a system for monitoring and a team to review and respond? Yes, we do. Congratulations to you guys on that. You guys worked hard on this. We have an amazing team with social workers, youth outreach specialists, parent liaisons. We also have our coordinators, right? SEL and restorative practices. So congratulations to you. We're working on this. We're really trying to get ourselves out there, shaking hands, letting people know we care, trying to change our verbiage and how we talk to people. We don't want people to come in and make it feel like a court. We don't. We want them to have a positive experience with Washington Unified School District, and we want them to know that we care. I had a mentor once tell me, parents do the best they can. They send us the best they can. No one sends their child to school and says, go get suspended, go flunk your classes, go get in trouble, or don't go to school. Their parents are doing the best they can, and it's our job to come alongside and support them. So thanks for having us today. Questions?
Any public comments?
No public comments received.
Okay, I'll entertain questions from the board. Great job. It seems like, thank you for the update. Vice President Kirby Gonzalez?
I just wanted to make a comment, since we've been on the receiving end sometimes of these letters, because we're following the rules, right? Sometimes keeping our kids home, especially with COVID and everything else. And so this is just, in terms of all the attendance presentations we've ever heard, this has been the most positive, and the videos are incredible. They're so good, and they really instill a sense of pride in being really proud of what's happening here. And so I just want to thank you all for that work, because we feel it, and it's a very different feeling than the other letters and the conversations you talked about. So thank you.
Clerk Venegas?
Yes, no, thank you for that presentation. It's exciting to see the campaign being kicked off and just all the great work we're doing. So just maybe a question or suggestion. Is there, are students, because I know we have like a media center, are we allowing students to also participate in the campaigning, whether it's campus-wide or community-wide? Are they, I know obviously they're on camera, but are they doing any of the technical work behind the scenes?
The Yorgos question.
When you say, to clarify, when you say the technical work behind the scenes, are you referring to working with me in terms of producing these videos and materials?
Producing camera work, the drone,
not with this particular project, no.
Okay. Is there a way to incorporate, even if it's, let's say, because I know we're going community-wide, if we went campus-wide, and allowing them maybe a project-based, because it is a real problem. It is a real scenario, right? And just hearing maybe their lens as to how they can get their peers to feel more connected. Maybe maybe they can run a side-by-side campaign. We handle the community and they can handle a campus-wide. It would just be nice to see what they're thinking, as they are the future, and they are the people we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. No, we can take that feedback and run with it, essentially. I'll do a little bit of more research, speak to some of our principals that might have students that specialize in these particular skill sets. If you remember, the interns that I had over the summer in the communications office were really helpful with producing other promotional videos, whether it's for middle college or WUVA or some other program. And that's something that we can definitely leverage as well in terms of it being an in-house project. So,
awesome.
Thank you for that.
I know River City actually has a full media kind of, I'm not sure if it's a full-fledged program. I had the opportunity to actually visit Natomas, and they had a huge, wonderful pathway. But I also know our campuses actually have all the materials. But I like the idea of an organic campaign that is youth-led, right? That we're not necessarily producing, that they're just a challenge of sorts.
Well, and it might be a great opportunity to take the campaign that's focused in September and spread it out throughout the rest of the year, so that it's not just a month-long, or at least not the perception of a month-long campaign. It's just something that lives on, and we emphasize the importance of attendance throughout the whole school year.
And then peer-to-peer, kind of like, again,
Absolutely.
the organic campaign that's not like it may not be as clean as what you produce. I was actually really impressed. Did you do all that, like the collateral?
I had a team that was working with me, so
That's pretty impressive.
it's a lot to squeeze in. In a month's span of work. So because the last time that we had spoken about this topic, it was August 1st. So from August 1st until September 1st, it was pedal to the metal, really, to get all of these done. And I was more instrumental in terms of working with the team to develop the messaging, making sure that it's on point with our strategic plan, that it's actually unique to our district as well. Identifying the individuals that were joining us on camera, dedicating the time, doing all the scheduling, but definitely needed some help as well along the way.
And I recognize the faces. The faces were our students. So
and that's really the best part.
Pretty phenomenal, yeah.
We wanted to flip that marketing the other way around. So instead of talking about product, we allow our people, our faces, and our stories to do the talking for us.
And I think using social media in a positive way, right? I think ultimately, fighting the social media is a bad thing, and letting really these students utilize what they have in their hands, right? That phone, utilize that social media. I think if they follow right behind your lead, they can use it as a reference and be campus-wide, so we can see every middle school and then our high schools, their club, or whether it's a classroom, use their equipment, what they have, their phones, and be able to just put maybe a month wide, right? Just go right behind your lead, and kind of see what a professional campaign looks like, and then be able to get ideas off of that and just kind of see what they have, and letting them again utilize what their tools and social media in a positive way.
Yeah. Trustee Pizzata talking to the social media king, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask a quick question. Since I've seen the Tiffany Keller video, I think that was emailed out. I was just wondering, have you gotten any feedback from the community on the reception of that, and the messaging and how that's being received? And
I'll give you two examples. So, being in the district office, or when I go out to visit schools for a particular reason, if there's something going on, I hear feedback directly from individuals that come across those emails or see a posting online. I'm able to look at the analytics mostly also as well on the back end of social media. We can also track the level of engagement on our website as well. So even on our announcements feed, we can see how many individuals click on a particular announcement if it features a video or some other attendance-related graphic. And that also gives us a different layer of feedback as well to understand what's going on and the level of engagement. The other thing that we were discussing together with Assistant Superintendent Moisich and the rest of our team is throughout the month of September, we're also going to be looking at attendance data in areas as well and seeing if there is correlation to upticks or trends that we might see in the classroom on our campuses during a month-long period when we are amplifying our messaging around the topic as well. So that also allows us to cross-compare data as well.
That's kind of what I was getting at, was the metric of how to rate whether or not this campaign is being successful. Do we need to change strategies, move in a different direction?
Absolutely.
So that's helpful, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
To put a capstone on that point as well, what we're hoping to do after the campaign wraps up is produce an actual report, so where we can share with the board and our audience and the community kind of the metrics that we saw throughout this month long. Yeah. And the nice thing too is this is almost the first time that we have embarked on this kind of a journey through this level of comprehension to give out a campaign or put out a campaign of this magnitude. So it's great to test the waters and see what works and what doesn't, and then we can continue adjusting as we move forward with other topics as well.
I can appreciate the articulation across all of your presentations that is aligned with the strategic plan. So good job, Dr. Hildreth, in making sure that they don't feel fragmented, that everything has a through line. Just in case, why September? Why do we push for attendance in September? I think for the public, they need to know this. Does anybody know except Monique? Because that's our base funding, right? So October 5th. So we push and push and push to make sure that the ADA is there. So there's enrollment, but we're also based off of average daily attendance. We also appreciate we want our kids to show up every single day, but it's really important to actually, those percentages that you saw, that they take it on October 5th, right? That's the day, primary day, that they take. This is the day in which we are going to calculate your funding. So enroll, we can say that we have a lot of kids, but if half the kids don't show up on October 5th, we only get 50% of the funding. So just to kind of, again, that's part of the reason why September is a really important month, so that we hit that October 5th. Did I say anything wrong, Monique? I just want to be transparent about why the push this month and not all year round sometimes.
And we should all lobby on how inappropriate that is for funding schools.
We do, but that is the law. I know that we've tried to change it to enrollment, and a lot of people smarter than me with more influence are trying to do it too, including CSBA. It's just we haven't gotten there yet. But thank you so much for your work, and just appreciate it. So, be sick on October 6th. No, go to school every single day, please. Please. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. If there are no other questions, we appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item N2, Measure Z Citizens Bond Oversight Committee.
Good evening. Hi, it's good to see you in person.
Oh, finally.
Good
So is he
evening.
taller or shorter than you thought he was?
I won't comment. I won't comment. It's great to see people in person. We were commenting on how it's nice to hear the public here too, just preparation for a meeting. But getting to business, good evening. This evening, along with Chairperson John Lindley, we are presenting the Measure Z Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. At this time, I will pass it on to you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So I'm also here with two other members of the committee, and thank you for having me. The board members, Superintendent Hildreth and Monique, thank you for the introduction. I'm actually here with two other members of the CBOC, Cases Shukas and Jen Brexton as well, and there's three other members as well. So in case those watching at home don't know, the CBOC's role is to work with the district to ensure that the bond funds are spent in accordance with the bond language and in accordance with law. And so we get to spend 4 meetings a year with Monique and the other members of the district. And we also get to review the spending, and we get to see the bond reports. And later on, we'll get to actually go and visit the campuses and see what's been done. So it's an enjoyable thing. We each, for this committee, we serve term limits. So each person is restricted to 2 to 3 2-year terms, and then we term out. And so if anyone's watching at home and is interested in this kind of thing, please apply. We are actually members short right now. So by all means, if you're interested, please reach out. It's on the district website. Shameless plug there. Thank you. So Measure Z passed back in November in 2020. It was, and this report is only for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. So there really was not a lot of activity for this report. So just as kind of overall, this actually happened after the report, but Measure Z funds will be spent on 3 projects in the district: the Westfield modernization, the Elkhorn modernization, and Performing Arts Center. Westfield will go first, and then Elkhorn and the Pacific Performing Arts Center will go second. In the fiscal year 2020 to 2021, the only thing that actually happened was the issuance of $60 million of bond funds. There was no actual expenditures. And based on this and the 100% audit that the audit firm did, the committee concluded that the bond funds were spent and used in accordance with the requirements and law. I'm afraid there's not much else to talk about because it's short. So.
All right.
Any questions?
Any public comments first?
No public comments received.
Okay, do we have any board comments? No? Thank
That was an easy one.
Thank you for making sure we are spending in accordance with the law, but it also seems like we didn't spend anything.
Didn't spend anything.
So
There was
easy to follow the law when we didn't spend anything.
Yes, I think there was like $2,000 in like processing funds, but that was like it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Monique. All right, okay. Moving on to item O, consent agenda. One last opportunity to pull anything from consent? Clarifying? No? Seeing that there are none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I move.
Clerk Venegas moves.
I'll second.
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have your consent agenda item. Congratulations to new hires. Yay, if they are here. Anybody here?
Yeah,
No.
new hires,
Okay.
they're here?
New hire? No.
They're here? I thought they were here. They're here.
They're
coming into the district.
I asked if there are any here.
Positive
So,
energy.
Okay, we have a limited time with Vice President Kirby Gonzalez. Moving on to action item number 1, adoption of resolution number 2022-23-53. William Zach, stand your back up. You might as well just stay here. Unless you like the exercise and you're getting your steps in.
Well, thank you for that. No, I do like getting my steps in, so it's a good thing. So this item, of course, supports the strategic plan goal, opportunity, and achievement for every student. Again, adhering to California Education Code, Section 1240, pursuant to the Williams Settlement, Washington Unified is required to hold a public hearing by the 8th week of the school year to make a determination through resolution that every pupil has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials in the 4 core areas reading language arts, math, science, or history. Williams Act school site visitations are an annual requirement as part of this to ensure that the standards-aligned instructional materials are accessible for all students. As I mentioned earlier, the 5 schools identified for these audits are Elkhorn Village, Riverbank, Stonegate, Westfield Village, and Westmore Oaks, and those visits are happening next week. Principals of these sites have provided written verification assuring that all students have equitable access to instructional materials. Uniform complaint procedures, UCP notices, have been posted on our website and in each classroom. The public hearing was conducted as required, and we are asking the board to adopt resolution 2223-53 stating we are in compliance. Thank you.
Okay, any last public comments? Yeah, it looks like, are you going to comment? Yes, I'm assuming on this item.
Oh, on the side, yeah.
On this item?
On this side, yes. Actually, because words matter, and because I have schooled pretty much each and every one of you on words chosen up here, I want to make a retraction from a statement earlier in which I quoted a Williams Act violations. I think violations, I was directly quoting complaints from members, but as a word I should use, I should not use violations. I should use the word concerns and issues. Because that's what I'm hearing about as concerns and issue. A violation would be a blatant disregard for the Williams Act or something that is repeating over and over. And in fairness to everybody here, that was not my intent. I was bringing it up more as an issues concern and not a violations concern. So that's it, just a correction.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay. Any other discussion? We discussed it earlier.
With that clarification, I would move it.
Okay, so we move to adopt by Trustee Pizzotti.
I second.
Clerk Venegas seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
You have your resolution. Resolution number 2022-23-51, the hybrid and zero-emission truck and bus voucher incentive project. Monique, we like our hybrid buses.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you for having us today. This evening, we are asking for your approval of passing of a resolution that will allow us to apply for a grant to help us to purchase buses. I'm here with our new transportation.
Oh.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Hi.
Welcome. Yay.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yes, Angelina.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, and to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any public comments first?
No public comments received? Oh, never mind.
Come on up. It's a time for public comment, Mr. Malik.
Formal here and small. Thank
I
you
mean,
very much for your time.
Mario, is there a reason you want people to fill out forms afterwards?
If it's agenda specific, maybe, but yeah, I'm writing it down.
Okay.
So we're good.
Perfect. Okay.
To be fair, Mario is always super helpful, and I do appreciate him always accommodating that. Just a very quick public comment on the matter of the buses. One, I think they're amazing with the hybrid models. Eco-friendly is the future and where we're headed. I would like the district to please consider, I've brought this before your attention before, of small Ford Econoline style vans for our niche sports and our smaller sports that have smaller teams so that coaches can transport equitably athletes that are maybe in smaller niche sports without having to actually take away from MOT personnel, CSEA brothers. I know coaches want to do that work for small niche sports that have less than 15 players, and this is something that we've talked about before. So with that, thank you, and I yield back my time.
And I know we did that for culinary. All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing that or not, I will entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
You have your resolution. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So resolution number 2223-52, GAN limits. Exciting stuff, Monique. So
Thank you.
exciting.
It
actually is very exciting if you understand it. But yes.
The GAN limit, this is more of a formality. What it is, in a very, very brief description, is it's a resolution certifying that we are not spending more than we're allowed to of taxpayer monies. We meet the requirement, we are in compliance. with the resolution, or with the requirement. And I ask your approval of the resolution.
Okay, any public comments about spending within the law?
No public comments
Nobody want to
received.
come on board? We like to follow the law here. Any board comments? Seeing that there are none, I will move.
I'll second.
Trustee Pizzotti seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
You have your GAN limit. Approval of, item number 4, approval of contract with Cooperative Strategies contract for enrollment projections and student potential analysis. You analyze their potential?
Yeah, not in that term. So we ask for your approval of an enrollment study and student potential analysis. It's not the potential of their academic success, but the potential number of students that would join our district based upon the housing development.
Gotcha.
You might even say it's a housing study and housing analysis. Some people also say a student generation report. We ask your approval of this contract that should be completed, if you do approve today, by mid-January. What this study would do, it would analyze enrollment. As we know, we projected at our adopted budget a decline in enrollment. Happily, we are seeing a bit of a change in there. We also know that in the West Sacramento community, there are several housing developments that are projected to come in the coming years, specifically in the south area, but we're also seeing some in the north area. And we want to make sure that our facilities are ready to welcome these new students. We also want to determine if we need to add facilities to our district to welcome these new students. So what this study will do, it'll give us the data and the information that we need to be able to do those projections and plan for the future for our students.
Okay, any public comments about this project?
Cooperative Strategies is the demographer we've used in the past, correct?
We've used a couple demographers I've found. We've used Cooperative Strategies, most recently for the trustee redistricting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay.
They also helped us with our TK enrollment projections.
Any other questions about the, makes good sense to me. There are a lot of housing projects. So I will entertain a motion to approve. Vice President Kirby Gonzalez moves. It sounds like Trustee Pizzotti's mumbling second.
I will second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
You have
Thank
your demographer. Item number 5, approval of the unaudited actual financial report.
Yes.
You have a new presenter.
I do. I get to welcome my team. This is so exciting.
Hi.
Hello. So our Director of Fiscal Services, Billy Duba, will be joining me to present the unaudited actuals this evening. So as you've been able to see this evening, we have a new template for our presentations, and we're very excited about it because it links directly to our strategic plan and the work that we're doing for our students and staff. Since this presentation involves the budget helps support all of the work that we're doing and provide the resources. Next slide. It aligns to all aspects of the strategy map in all of the pillars. Next. So let's get into the presentation. As you're aware, with all of our budget presentations, we always begin with our annual budget cycle, and we are at the unaudited actual step. Next slide. Oh God, I don't have to do next slide.
I don't want to interrupt you.
I can do this myself.
Can you talk?
We're told that you press down to move forward.
That's what I have
down
to do.
to move forward.
Can I have you speak into the mic?
Yes, speak more?
Yeah, just because
Okay,
I don't
thank
want...
you. So the overview of what we'll cover today, we'll have our legal requirements, we'll do a year in review, the unaudited summary, and always discuss our next steps. Brief review of what the unaudited actuals are. It's called the unaudited actuals simply because we haven't gone to that next step where our auditors have audited our expenditures. It's our actual expenditures as of June 30th of the previous fiscal year. Once we finish our presentation, we will ask for your approval. Then we will send our report to the county office for their approval. And then, as I mentioned before, our external auditors will audit our report. We wanted to take a year in review to take a bit of a look back to last year. So last year, we welcomed all of our students back to in-person for fully in-person, not a hybrid. However, we also opened a brand new school, our Washington Unified Virtual Academy, and that was really new for us. That was really exciting. We still had COVID relief funding to be able to support our students and staff. And then when January came, our financial outlook started looking very, very promising, and that was very exciting. At the end of the year, you all approved a new strategic plan for us. And then once that was done, we also found out that we were getting more money and more investments that would be available for us for our students. That was just a bit of a history of last year that leads us towards the unaudited actuals. So at this time, I will pass the mic over to Billy.
Thank you. Good evening. The unaudited actual summary. We will begin with the unrestricted budget review. Oh, that down button.
Yes.
Okay, so unrestricted budget, our revenue came in slightly lower than we projected at the estimated actuals at the end of June, largely due to interest rates changing and a reduction in our local revenue. Our expenses also increased. We saw an increase in certificated substitutes, but our contribution to the restricted side decreased due to extra special ed funding. Okay, the number side of those. The revenue went down about $831,000 as compared to our June estimated actuals. Expenses, we spent about $930,000 more than we anticipated, but we contributed to restricted about $548,000 less than we thought we would. So our September unaudited actuals show a net decrease to our fund balance of about $11 million. There you go. Restricted budget review. Revenue and expenses both decreased due to ESSER 3 projects not being completed last year. Those projects will be moved to this current year, 22-23. And the opposite side of the unrestricted contribution, the restricted contribution was decreased, also due to special ed funding. The numbers of those, the revenue and expenses are about 3.8 and 3.6 million, different than our June estimated actuals. Show a net increase to our fund balance of $3.1 million. Total general fund ending balance came up pretty healthy. $25 million is our ending fund balance at the September unaudited actuals, which is almost $2 million less than we thought it would be, but it's still a very healthy balance, and it's allowing us to plan for these future initiatives. So we are planning to reinvest some LCAP money that we didn't spend last year. We're preparing and maintaining programs such as transitional kindergarten, facility maintenance, bus replacement is planned. Future costs we're planning for, again, the other post-retirement benefits, technology replacement, and we are planning for to advance our strategic plan. So we would like to commit to from our reserves these amounts: $1 million to our post-employment benefits, 1.5 to deferred maintenance. We're going to expand the TK expansion, 1.5 million. Technology replacement program, 500,000. Bus replacement, and our strategic plan implementation. The next steps are your approval of our unaudited actual report, which we will then send to the county office and then our auditors for review. We're working on preparing the current year budget, tightening it up, monitoring, maintaining it,
maintaining it,
maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, maintaining it, ma which is the next step in our budget cycle. Thank you very much.
Before we move on to board discussion, do we have any public comment?
No public comments received?
All right, that was very forceful. Thank you. Any board discussion? Trustee Pistati.
Just one quick question. Fund 20, the OPEB fund, I noticed we're putting $1 million in there. We put in $1 million last year, correct? Or was it 1.4 or something like that?
4.5.
$4.5 million? So we were going to have close to $5 million in the fund? Bravo. That is going to be such a benefit when the rainy days do come. So I just want to congratulate you on that. Thank you.
Vice President Kirby-Gonzalez.
Thank you. My quick question is just, I saw the TK expansion money, and are we thinking that is staffing, furniture, or actual facility, physical facility? So what might we think about with that money?
You'll see in the report that it's going into Fund 40, and Fund 40 is a facilities fund. As we talked about, we're expanding, and we need to make sure that we have the facilities to be able to support our students. You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, if there are none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Vice President Kirby-Gonzalez moves.
Second.
Clerk Benega seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
I had a point of process clarification. We were notified 2 days ago that in the consent agenda item, there was a reference to measure Z, but it should be measure V. So I think we adopted what we need to probably pull it and vote on it again to make sure that it's the correct measure. I
Yes,
apologize,
we
I
did.
did not catch that.
Yes, we sent
when we
that
voted on the
and-
consent. I apologize.
Thank.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move, yes, I apologize, but I'm going to move item 03, approval of agreement for architectural services with PBK Architects Inc. for Clarendon Fire Alarm Replacement Project. So,
Yes.
how do we do that? We cancel it?
Which one is it?
03. It was consent.
I got to rescind the vote.
So we are going to rescind the vote only on, I'll look at Colin, rescind the vote on item 03 because we, not just 03 specific to,
I think technically you may.
well, we'll just do the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? We'll do the whole
Rescind
thing.
the vote on the consent. And then amend 03. Then. So.
Okay,
I
so
would make a motion to rescind the vote on the consent agenda.
Okay, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we need a motion to amend 03, specific to PBK agreement.
I will make the motion to amend 03, specific to measure V on PBK.
Item, the specific PBK.
The specific to the PBK, and then would move the consent
So how do I say
agenda.
it, since I know what it is? So
Why don't you do that?
I make a motion to amend item consent 03F, specific to the approval of agreement for architectural services with PBK Architects, Inc. for Clarendon Fire Alarm Replacement Project. The reference is to measure Z in the agendized item. We need to make sure that I amend it to say measure V.
There you go.
Measure V and deferred maintenance.
And deferred maintenance. Okay.
And that would, and I would second that.
Okay. So with the amendment, I will entertain a motion to adopt. So
I second that.
you said, did I, okay?
You motioned,
Okay,
I second.
whatever. All in favor? Aye.
Now
Okay.
it's done.
All right. Did we do okay, Colin? Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. Moving. We rescinded the entire consent agenda, amended it, and then
And then
revoted. No, we, All right. So moving on to item approval of contract services with Excel Construction with Measure Z as in zebra, Westfield Village Elementary School Modernization Project.
Thank you. We are asking your approval of the contract for the lease-back agreement with XL Construction. If you recall, back in June, you did approve a resolution to allow us to enter into a contract with XL Construction. As a reminder, XL Construction is going to be the overall contractor for our Westfield Village modernization project that's funded through Measure Z.
All right. I will open up for public comment.
No public comments received?
Okay, it looks like Vice President Kirby Gonzalez has a question.
I do. Would this be an appropriate place to just bring up the idea of a focus on going green with our construction as much as possible in terms of conversations? I'm supportive of this, but moving forward with that contractor, I just want to make an emphasis. I know it was recommended to me that many of the schools in San Diego are a really good model for making sure that they are utilizing, their water spaces and other things. And so we haven't called out that focus in the past. And I think that building a new school, we should be thinking about being as environmentally friendly and low carbon footprint. So is this an appropriate time, or is there another appropriate, would be my question.
I think that's a good comment. I'm wondering if that's a facilities sub-discussion.
So that's my recommendation to the facility plan.
There are lots of things the facilities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we will,
and with
but I
that,
know that you have, a short time to go.
With that, I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have your approval.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Panu is not here, so Dr. Hildreth, will you be presenting on the next item, on the Diversity Recruitment and Inspiring Leaders Program?
Right, we're very excited to bring this information of to support one of our goals of really not only retaining staff and our focus on recruitment, but with innovative approach to do that, which we would like to share with you. And we have our Director of Human Resources who is going to make that presentation for us. So welcome, Farah Ubadina.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Hildreth. Good evening, President Wong, trustees, and Superintendent Hildreth. My name is Farah Ubadina. I'm the Director of Human Resources. Tonight, I am presenting on behalf of our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, who is unable to be here with us. And I'll take the next few minutes to review the recruiting diversity for Washington Unified and creating a pathway for aspiring leaders. Our objectives this evening are to provide an overview of the diversity recruitment program, create a pipeline for aspiring leaders within our district. We'll review the funding that is required for these investments. Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. And later this evening, we'll request approval for the budget that is required for this plan. As a reminder, through the strategic plan process, we've made a Washington Unified promise. Our promise is equity, excellence, and empowerment for every student every day. This is the reason why recruiting for a more diverse educator and leadership workforce is more important than ever. Our why for this program is that this plan has been developed in an effort to address our need to recruit qualified teaching candidates that reflect the diversity of our community and student. Our priority is to recruit our own graduates, community members, and invest in our current employees' development as potential leaders and educators. As we review our strategic plan goals, you will see the boxes that are checked here. This program is in direct alignment with our strategic plan. As we review our goals for our student success, opportunities for and achievement for every student, and equity principles, cultivating healthy relationships that create a safe, empowering environment, and ensuring that all students are provided access and opportunities. As we review our 4 pillars, Pillar A, equity and focused teaching and learning, as well as Pillar C. These are major components in our strategic plan that this program will directly support and move our work forward. As we lean deeper into our strategic plan goals, come strategic priorities and key actions. Under system-wide key actions, you'll notice there's a green highlight around C2, develop an internal leadership pipeline and succession planning. And under equity-specific key actions, you'll see a highlight around C4 and C5. Also, these are major components that our work, this program will support and move our work forward in these areas. Our district has also partnered with National Center for Urban Schools Transformation that help us move our equity-focused work forward to ensure equitable access to the instructional core. Their key recommendation is highlighted on this slide. As they recommend, develop strong pools of highly qualified teaching candidates who represent the rich diversity of our district. I want to take a moment here to review our demographics data. This is not new information. This was presented to the board by Performance Facts previously as we were planning our strategic goal process. And these two pie charts will actually present the data for our students' racial and ethnic background, as well as our staff racial breakdown. You'll notice that the student ethnic background and the staff racial breakdown is not directly in correlation. But I do want to mention that this is not abnormal. But we are bringing this program forward to address this gap. The next slide is just an updated data of the same demographics, and you'll notice the same patterns are present here as well. I also wanted to bring some recent publications to the board's attention. These recent publications all refer to the teacher shortage, the problem that not just is California is facing, but it's nationwide. Some of these publications highlight how districts are facing teacher shortage, and we found some highlights on Cal Matters, as they mentioned that there are barriers to potential teacher candidates, some cost barriers that they're facing for their credential program after earning a bachelor's degree. We found something on the Washington Post, never seen it in this bad. They also mentioned that the teacher shortage in America has hit crisis level, and school officials are scrambling everywhere. Although we are not scrambling yet, and we've been very fortunate this year with our efforts to staff our certificated vacancies. However, we want to make sure that we avoid this problem in the future. This is why we need to be innovative and very strategic with our recruitment effort. We all know that every year recruiting for certificated positions gets tougher and tougher. This becomes even more challenging when we are recruiting for a specialized position in areas of math and science. Similar to other districts, we also want to bring this program forward to bring staff that actually reflect our diversity of our student and our community. This also goes back to our demographics and will address that problem there, that gap as well. This program will also help us eliminate some barriers that our potential candidates are facing, and will help fund those credentialing programs through this program. Now, what is the Diverse Educators Program? This program will help us identify candidates that reflect the diversity of our school community and our student population. It will also identify candidates that desire to become educators in Washington Unified and fill our hard-to-fill positions. This is a 3-year program, and through this program, we will select 30 candidates over the next 3 years, averaging about 10 candidates each year. And the way we will support them is by funding portion of their tuition fees for their credentialing program. We will provide them technology support. We'll provide them a laptop, backpack. Some of these things, believe it or not, become a barrier. And then we will also provide additional stipends if they represent the diversity of our students. We'll provide support with allowance if they choose to reside within the Washington boundaries. Now, this slide provides you a breakdown of those incentives. As I mentioned, this program will pay 80% of the tuition cost for 1-year credential program. That is one of the big barriers for candidates out there and earning credentials. Again, we will provide technology support. $600 monthly will be their monthly allowance if they decide to reside within the Washington boundaries for over 12 months while they're going through the credentialing program. There are additional monetary incentives. $5,000 incentives will be provided to candidates who earn a credential that is identified by our district that are hard to fill positions. $5,000 incentive will also be provided to diversity represented by candidates' lived experience of living in a zip code that matches our demographics, bilingual in languages within our schools, demonstrated academic interest such as gender, race, multicultural studies. Maybe these candidates have a background or are involved in with organizations that have served underserved students. Now, in return for our level of investment and support, we're asking these applicants or candidates to commit to at least 3 years of service within our school district after they've completed their credential program. This slide will provide you a breakdown of the cost for each incentive. As I mentioned, 80% will go fund their 1-year teaching credential. After research in local agencies and beyond, we average that cost to be $16,000, totaling to $480,000 for 30 participants over the next 3 years. There will be $600 will be the residential allowance if they choose to reside within our boundaries for over 12 months while they're going through the program, technology support, and then incentives for candidates that have diverse backgrounds. This is a total of $858,000. We also want to make sure that we have some funding set aside for additional support as our candidates may need them. They may need some support with testing, materials as they're doing their student teaching. We want to make sure that we're able to support them in those areas. This program will also require an HR TOSA. The main job for this HR TOSA will be to work very closely with our participants to ensure that they are succeeding throughout the entirety of the program, as well as eliminate any barriers. We don't want to lose these candidates, and we don't want to find out months later that there was a barrier that we could have eliminated had we found out months before. Miscellaneous cost, we're averaging that about $36,000. This is a total of $222,000. Now, how will we start this program and when? After the approval, we will start by reaching out to our employees, our classified employees who may hold a bachelor's degree or higher. We'll reach out to our graduates who are currently enrolled in the bachelor's program. Our current seniors in college from West Sacramento will reach out to our community members. We'll also promote this program with our high school students as a future pathway. The reason why we want to approach these candidates and within our community is because they belong to our community. They know our culture, and that's why we think it's very important that we start with them. So our potential application timelines and selection process, we will immediately start our recruitment process in September and October. We'll do in-person sessions. We'll have a Q&A on our website. We will be selecting our candidates by November and December, and then providing official notices by January. The candidates will be required to enroll in a credentialing program in order to be qualified for this program. After they've done that, they will sign a WUSD program agreement, and before they can access any of these incentives. I want to bring your attention to the table here, as this provides us a timeline of when these candidates will be eligible to fill positions within our district. The first year, cohort 1 will go through their credentialing program, and focus on that. Following year, they will be eligible to fill positions within our district. As we train or take our cohort 2 through that process, will be eligible to be hired in positions in year 24-25. Our final cohort 3 will be eligible to fill positions in year 25-26. This takes us into our second part of the program, which is the Aspiring Leaders Program. This program will focus on investing in our current employees' development as potential leaders within the district, and it will help build leadership capacity. We will reach out to our own employees who show interest in filling leadership positions or leadership roles. Similar to the Diverse Educator Program, this is also a 3-year program. We will select 15 participants, 5 average each year, and take them through the process over the next 3 years. Following is the method that we will follow for our selection and recruitment process. I also want to say that this program also has 2 components. The first component is to complete the credentialing program for their administrative credentials program. The second part is a leadership training series that these candidates will be part of. I also want to mention here that the second part of this program is not just limited to those participants who are enrolled in credentialing programs. These are also available to those candidates who are interested in filling leadership roles that don't hold a credential. For example, our classified employees. This program will help fund 80% of their credentialing program. And the second part, it will also help fund the second part, which is the leadership series. Again, similar to our diverse educators, in return for these investments, we're asking our participants to commit to a minimum of 3 years to serve our district after they've completed this program. I want to bring your attention to the footnote. The leadership series will include additional participants above the 15 participants. As I mentioned, these participants may not hold a credential, but may have an interest in filling a leadership role or leadership position, for example, our classified employees. I also want to mention here that this does not mean that in the next 3 years, we will be hiring 15 managers. The intention of this program is to build leadership capacities and within our employees to maybe fill leadership roles in the future. Similar to the Diverse Educators Program, these are our timelines. We will start our recruitment process in September and October, and we'll select sometimes in November and December. We'll provide an official program notification in January. We will ask our participants we'll require them to enroll in an admin service credential program, and after they've done that, they will sign a WSD program agreement, before they can access these incentives. Again, for the timeline for these candidates to be ready to fill leadership positions, again, while this is a two-part program, the first year, these candidates will be going through their credentialer program. Those are our cohort 1. As cohort 1, the second year goes through the leadership series, cohort 2 will be going through their credential program, and so forth. This slide will provide you a breakdown of those, the cost for those incentives. Again, as I mentioned before, 80% of cost will be to fund their credential program, pay for their tuition for their credential program, and materials and supplies will be supported by this program. HR TOSA was mentioned in the previous slide. The HR TOSA will be responsible to help these candidates become successful and help lead their work and be a direct liaison with them. And then some miscellaneous costs, we average about $10,000 with a total of $27,000, excuse me. Evaluation and funding. So this program has the way we figured that we will go ahead and evaluate these metrics is we want to make sure that we track success and our success and our progress. And the way we will do that is with our diverse educators program, we will track our candidates. How many candidates were selected? Were those candidates are WSD graduates? How many enrolled in a program? Did they complete their credential program? Did they reside in the Washington Unified boundaries? We also want to go ahead and track the cost of the program by individuals per year, as well as the cost per participant. For us, our aspiring leaders, we will track our applicants. Are those applicants our WSD graduates? Have they completed? Did they have a diverse background? Did they complete the program? Were they residing within our boundaries? And also track their average cost per participant. We also want to track and see if these, after completion of their program, if they were able to fill leadership roles or positions. This slide provides you a grand total for these two investments, as previously mentioned by Assistant Superintendent Ms. Strawald, that these programs will be funded through the general fund. The Diverse Educators Program will be a little over $1 million over the next 3 years, and then the Aspiring Leaders Program will be $227,000 with a grand total of a little over 1.3. I want to make sure that we understand that this program is over three years. It's an investment in our students and our staff. With the Diverse Educator Program, we will support 30 candidates, and with our Aspiring Leaders Program, 15 candidates or more. Requested action tonight. The board is asked to take action to approve the Diversity, Recruitment, and Aspiring Leaders Program and funding this evening. This concludes my presentation for tonight. Thank you so much for having me. I will be able to, if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Do we have any public comment? Come on up, Doug.
Not a public comment, it's a WSTA comment. So I'm not acting in my capacity as a member of the public. This obviously, it looks good, it seems good. We like to recruit from within. I'm always concerned when an item is on the agenda that the general public hasn't had much chance to take a look at, and we're asking for approval with one board meeting. We're talking about $1.3 million. You know, you're going to do what you're going to do, and obviously, just off firsthand looking at this presentation tonight, and I looked at it this week, it looks very intriguing and interesting. But again, $1.3 million. I think it should go before the public in a time where there's more members of the public here to talk about it and discuss it. But that's my 2 cents.
Any other public comments?
No other public comments received?
Seeing there are none, it looks like Trustee Posada is leaning in.
Yeah.
Ask your question.
Yeah. So, I love that we're reaching out to our own first. I mean, that I really like seeing. But I think my question focuses around an accountability of the funding. So what happens to the incentive if the newly hired teacher leaves before their 3 years are up, either voluntarily or involuntarily? Because that can happen.
Yes. Thank you for that question. This is why we are asking these participants to sign a WSD agreement before they receive the incentive. That agreement will communicate to them what we're asking them in return. And if should there be a case where a participant cannot fulfill those requirements of 3-year commitment, they will be required to refund those incentives. And I want to mention this is why it's very important that this work is led by the HR TOSA, because they will build those relationships over the 3 years, over the course of their program, and they will identify and communicate this requirement throughout. And so I hope that answers your question.
It does, but then it raises another question. So if they serve 2 of the 3 years, then they have to give back all potentially $10,000 because maybe they're a member of our targeted community and hold a math or science credential. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
So it's not prorated at all?
Dr. Hildreth?
So that's something that we can work on to verify. I know in speaking with Assistant Superintendent Panu, he did mention that that is the intent of making sure if you don't complete, that you know that there's funding that's going to be returned, but to get clarification on the prorated part, we will get back.
Okay, I would appreciate that because I don't think it's fair to ask somebody to serve 3 years of their life based on an incentive when maybe situations change, right?
Yes, life happens.
Life happens,
For sure.
family happens, and they may have to leave to go to some other portion of the state where they came from. So I'm just, I would be hesitant to, to pass this without that kind of assurance because I don't want to hold a carrot in front of somebody and then say, you know what, we're going to have to take that carrot away, even though you had a situation that may have been outside of your control.
Just a little bit in my experience, I know this is a new program for Washington Unified, but I've had direct experience with this program at my previous district, and we've had those situations where candidates, for various needs or life, like you said, life happens, and in those situations, we worked with those candidates. We understood, and there was a dialogue and an agreement on both sides, which, so those are things that we can bring forward, bring back to you, bring some clarification.
Well, you're asking us to vote and pass this now. So what I would say is...
Dr. Hildreth, you have a response?
Yeah.
Yes, in terms of the ask of the approval tonight, yes. But to your point is knowing that that agreement and that modification there are still opportunities to modify that working with our, legal support. But in terms of the overall, I don't know if once we know that, is that going to change the overall cost? So I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear as the concern, the overall cost, or wanting to have a little bit more specificity of that portion of the program.
I'd be willing to pass this now, as long as we have a caveat that says this is not hard and fast. There's a case-by-case basis that can arise.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, because as we develop, we know we're still going to need to create the agreement that's not written yet, or there's we wanted to present just the overall program and what are the components, knowing that there are still specifics that we would need to highlight.
That just brought up another question. That means that because teachers have a 2-year probation, right? So this means they would have to pass their 2-year probation and be into their 3rd year before they're eligible for this incentive, correct? So we would be effectively hiring somebody on a 3-year probation in order to access these funds. Is that not correct?
They will be accessing these funds as soon as they're selected to be participants in this program and as they're going through their credentialing program, because we want to take away barriers for cost for their credentialing program through this program.
Right, but I'm thinking more along the lines of the 5,000 and the other 5,000, right, for the math and science, and then the demographic stipend, right? So that's another potentially $10,000 that they may have to pay back if they don't pass probation, which is involuntary to them.
So we had to lay somebody off. The problem is after it's year 2, it's just problematic, right? So because say for whatever reason life happens, maybe people not a great fit. So we've encouraged them to be in this field, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, you signed your life away to 3, but we're actually letting you go. There, to your point, there's actually, I do feel it like, well, I was going to hold my comments until later.
Go ahead. You're fine.
But so that is a legitimate concern of through no fault of their own. We talk about this in closed session, right? Like there are people who's just not a great fit. So, but yet we recruited them, but yet they're on the hook. So it feels a little bit unfair. To degree, that's what I'm hearing. That there's a equity issue in that, especially if you are looking for BIPOC communities and communities of color who are from the community, right? So it's just something to consider as we think about the policy questions you ask. What is the unintended consequence of an application of this? The application of this, right? So I'm just kind of staying those. What are the unintended and inequitable consequences? When you are actually targeting certain communities, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they have to move out of state because their relative is ill, right? So they're all, let's not use the probe situation. Let's use real life situation, right? I think those are fair questions.
And I'll take those recommendations back. We're here, this is a new program, and we have the skeleton of this program. We're here to ask your feedback, your approval, and present what we feel will be a very successful program that we've seen in other districts as well. So, we can definitely take those.
So I've gone through an administrative leadership program like this in Oakland. It is why I have credentials. It is, but they did not keep me on the hook, because I quite frankly didn't stay there, right? So it's just something for consideration. Sure. I'll just name, I do feel it needs a little bit more cooking. It would have been great to have an information item before an action item, right? To get everything out on the table, right? So I'm just gonna just say that. It's not that it's not a great idea. We've been asking for this for years, quite frankly, under the last superintendent. So just really excited to see this on the board, but there are so many moving parts. I have the question of, well, is it just teachers? Is it social workers? Is the outreach workers who want to be credentialed social workers, the nurses, the health aides? So you focus. So my focus was, okay, you said teachers, but there are also other classified staff who have other credentials that, that wasn't presented here, for example. So kind of what is the breadth and diversity of credentials that you're talking about when we are thinking about a whole child system, right? Focus on SEL. So I'll just be transparent in terms of okay, this is great. I do feel there's a little bit more cooking to do, right? Or at least some information.
Yeah, and I would also, I'm thinking about that timeline. If there's any, I know we're talking about prorated, but also just potentially having service hours, right? Like being able to have the individual on campus serving, maybe in another capacity, but hands-on, being able to build rapport, build relationship, get in touch with the culture of that campus, instead of maybe just that 5,000, that 10,000, being as an incentive, as Kobe was talking about, just if we're asking for that commitment from these individuals, maybe how quickly can we get them connecting, right? Connecting and maybe focusing on that SEL piece with some of our students. So maybe something like that is.
I think that's a great point. I would say this, in order to keep this moving, and I would say I'm willing to move this forward now if we can have it brought back to us for a final vote with some of the caveats that we've stipulated.
So
or at least some of the ideas
So what I'm
addressed.
hearing, that motion is to table it and come back maybe at the next board meeting. So I think that is what we're hearing, especially, it'd be, I think, great to have other two board members who,
Yeah.
again, a nurse who, has spoken to my credentialing program, and another teacher, to get the perspective of but the question then, the caveat is, there's urgency. It's interesting that I see your timeline that you're recruiting now in September, and it just came to us, though that feels kind of weird and interesting. Right, so there was an assumption that we were, anyways, I'll put that there, that your timeline is such that this month you are
We are
going to
just very excited for the program. Start
I trust the intention and the vision, but I
trust the intention. Yeah, no, I trust 100%. Yeah, I like that we would, but I also think that it's not a no, we're excited about it. There are just a lot of questions, and it, like I said, it would have been probably a better an information item to get all of our questions out.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
in public, so the public knows how we are discussing this. Fully supportive, been supportive for years. Heck, I went through one, right? So, and they're just things that I think, like as somebody who just would be concerned if I had left Oakland and then they said, Jackie, by the way, pay back.
Right.
Like everything that you did. It's a concern, right? So, especially when we're targeting, certain communities that represent our demographic.
Yeah.
Right. But I also, I would have been interested in hearing, I know there are really great staff right now in credentialing programs. Like, if you had said, we have already identified them, and then this would have been like the first cohort, because I know a lot of people currently in credential programs, right, who are out of pocket. It would have been interesting to say, well, then this is our first cohort because they self-selected already. Like, that would have been interesting to me, right? Like, this is how we're going to start this first cohort because it's staff-driven and, all of that. So anyways, it's not a criticism. There's a lot of excitement, but you also hear a lot of questions that we need to kind of work it a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think we're 100% yes on this in that sense. I just, let me ask this question. Is this time sensitive that it has to be done at this board meeting?
Dr. Hildreth?
No.
So just bring it back.
I just see people wince back here.
No, it's more of a timeline. You don't get me.
I don't think it's time sensitive.
Okay.
The urgency is we're very excited to try and bring more representation for our students.
Yeah.
That's the urgency.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we wholeheartily agree. We've said it time and time again when we started our equity walks and our equity work years ago. So this is not a no. This is there just needs a little bit more.
Understood.
Right.
And even, like you said, that the interest list from our staff already, without spending any money, saying, we already have, 12 students or 12 staff members that are looking to be a part of this, maybe some names, some faces, just.
I see them right now in my head. Because of 22, 23, like, it's right now. You're saying this month.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been interesting to say, well, next year we would roll out the outreach, but we've identified these set leaders, right? So just some advice.
So
Take it or leave it.
I will take those recommendations.
are you saying that there's already people in this program now?
No, that
Okay.
they're in there, they're out of pocket paying credentialing programs.
Is there, okay, so then let's add another caveat to this. Can they get reambused for some of their credentialing, like?
It's just something for consideration for us to say, like, if you are looking at this year and starting maybe a spring leadership training, something for consideration.
Yeah.
That, like, we're growing our own, but some of our own are already paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
For some of that.
No, I'm in agreement with that. I think, if we're going to do this, let's look at the people who have already really took the priority or the they took the initiative themselves to do it, and I really appreciate that too.
And I would say when I went through it, we had leave time. We were granted leave time as part of a cohort to do it. Something for consider. Again, something I didn't see here.
Yes.
So during when we were working as classified or whatever, like we had set time that was approved, and our duties were covered.
See, every once in a while, we have good ideas.
I'm just saying. It again, it's like you ran one. I've been in one. So.
Yes, for sure. And in our my previous experience, we've had granted leaves as candidates would come forward with a hurdle or a barrier that they could not continue with the program, and then we had granted leaves for a few months or whatnot. But that was an ongoing conversation. So absolutely.
Yeah,
those are valid
points. And again,
points.
like the leadership is like I love the fact that we had equity focused discussion in our leadership. Kind of like that was really first introduction years ago, decades ago, very long ago. So again, being intentional with our strategic plan about like the culture and what we're trying to like that excites people, right? That excited me when we were having that, and then just the cohort model. So anyways, where you're hearing definitely interested, does need a little bit more cooking. We will send Dr. Hildreth all of our questions, and then bring it back to us.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, we need to move. I will move to table this.
Okay.
Second.
Third it.
Favor aye. Okay. There you have it. So, all right. Moving on to board governance. Updates to the Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6158 Independent Study. Stan, you're back up.
Thank you. This item is going to support our strategic plan goal for opportunity and achievement for every student. Assembly Bill AB 181 came into law on June 25, 2022, and this bill made changes to independent study. In order to generate apportionment for independent study, all school districts must adopt and implement board policies and written agreements that meet specific new elements in accordance with AB 181. The attached board policy and administrative regulation 6158 independent study has been reviewed by our district auditors to make sure that it does ensure compliance with AB 181, and we're asking you tonight to accept that so we can move forward.
Any public comments?
No public comments.
Any board comments other than we did review this yesterday, and we'd like to be in compliance with the law and making sure that our students with special needs have everything that they need. So with that said, I'm going to move.
Second.
And third.
That's an all in favor. You get your vote. Aye.
All right, thank you. I want to thank my Director of Compliance and Accountability for putting the BP and AR together for us tonight. Thank you. Stephanie Grode's her name.
Thank you for keeping us in compliance with the law. All right, moving on to board and superintendent comments. So moving on to Dr. Hildreth.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming and staying and being part of our board superintendent governance team engagement. I just want to highlight that with this first month of school, there's been a lot of positive energy and support for students is just palpable. And just another shout out to Stacy for that newcomer center. It's if you need a place for refocusing your why, that's pretty much the place to go. So I hope other people get to experience what's happening for our students. I want to highlight tomorrow, September 23rd, is California Native American Day. And a great way to recognize the day might be to watch the recording of Cultural Understanding for Educators. And it's available on the YOLO California Indian Professional Learning and Curriculum Advisory webpage. The local advisory group includes tribal leaders, cultural practitioners, educators, parent reps, college and university faculty and students, and members of the group work with Taylor Pennywell, Redbud Resource Group, to develop and host this virtual workshop in September of last year. Their webpage also includes many upcoming events and professional learning opportunities for K-12 educators. So it's a great resource and really shows our students that we appreciate and represent everyone's cultural backgrounds. I'm thrilled to share that over the last week, I began meeting with students as part of my 22-23 Superintendent Student Advisory Group. Last Friday, I met with a group of students at Washington Middle College. And on Tuesday of this week, I met with a group of Yolo High School, and I'm meeting with River City students coming up in October. The goal is to meet with each group of students twice per semester. Last year, I had one big group. This year, I want to highlight and acknowledge that each of our high schools has a different feel, need, vibe, culture. And so I want to give those students that opportunity to share about their own school and then to think about what are the commonalities across all of our high schools. And I have to share that I never get tired of talking with students. Their insight is so authentic and on point. And so the focus of our conversation so far has really been sharing the strategic plan with them, but the focus is on the portrait of a graduate and showing them that these are the 6 characteristics that we want them to have when they leave our district, and asking them which characteristic is the one they resonate with, and then which is the measure. And their feedback was great. They were excited. They said, yes, I want those. I want to be in a system where those are the characteristics. The feedback they shared, a lot of it was about respect. A lot of it was about cultural humility, empathy, and student empowerment. So the opportunity that their voice matters is something that's really important to them, and they appreciated that opportunity. So that's how I'm getting in with students. And then I'm also excited to share that we're expanding the superintendent's parent advisory. So we normally have had one parent from each school and who we share with. So this year we've recruited up to 3 parent reps from each school, and they will meet with me at least 4 times a year. Our first parent advisory meeting is going to be on October 5th from 5:30 to 6:30 at the district office, and I'm looking forward to sharing our strategic plan and getting that same kind of feedback of what supports do we need to provide to meet those characteristics and goals. So it's great. There's a lot of things in there. What are we doing well, but what do we need to do better? Highlighting our students, our Sea Monkeys from River City on Sunday, September 11th. The Syncopating Sea Monkeys of River City High School were guests of the Sacramento Jazz Education Foundation, as 7 band members attended the performance of the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis at Rio Americano High School. And it was amazing, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our aspiring musicians to see these world-class musicians from the 4th row. On Tuesday, September 20th, our wonderful transportation department hosted a free school bus driver orientation and training for anyone interested in becoming a school bus driver in West Sacramento. And these classes will occur a few times a year. They're led by our WUSD school bus drivers who are also state certified instructors. And so shout out to Angelina and our transportation department for all that they do. At one of our last board meetings, we've been focused on school safety. And so we had a school safety symposium and have been working with our district leaders and school leaders on that important topic. So on September 16th, a team of our WUSD school administrators joined our command staff from the West Sac PD to attend a regional school security symposium hosted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Sacramento, the Sacramento Sheriff's Office, and the California State Department of Education. The symposium provided valuable information on threat assessment and active shooter incident prevention, with an emphasis on collaboration between schools and law enforcement to prevent violence in our schools. The group's attendance together is part of our continued efforts to train staff and keep our schools safe. So many thanks to our friends and partners from the West Sacramento Police Department for their continued collaboration. In the community, we have Habitat for Humanity, is partnering with the residents of Bright and Broderick and other community organizations and the city of West Sac to complete home repairs, community projects, and host a community cleanup in our beautiful city. It'll be Saturday, October 8th. And volunteers are needed to make this a big success. So if you're interested, register today for Rock the Block, Bright Broderick, and the registration will close Friday, September 13th, and the information can be found on our announcement feed. And then lastly, in community activity, tomorrow, or rather on Saturday, September 24th, there is a Move with the Mayor event at the community center. Mayor Guerrero is kicking off a fitness boot camp called Move with the Mayor to encourage the entire community to get healthy together and learn exercises that they can practice at home. And it's for anyone ages 8 and older, and you can get more information on the City of West Sacramento website. So things are happening in the district, things are happening in our city, and it just reinforces that West Sac is the place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Trustee Pizzotti?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Elliot for showing up and being our first in-person, live and in-person student board member. I absolutely love seeing that and getting back to the field. It's been 3 years, since we've had a student up here on the dais with us. So, I also just wanted to say I am absolutely 100% supportive of this initiative. I don't want anybody to mistake that I'm not excited about it. I certainly hope that when you bring it back to us next time, that we can get some of those clarifications on the items that we addressed, and maybe look into a pro rata redistribution of the incentives. So I just wanted to quickly say that. Looking forward to homecoming game next week, because not only is it a great time, but also my daughter will be cheering at the game, so had to get that shameless plug out there. With that, that's it. That's all I got.
All right, Clerk Venegas.
I'll start off with saying gracias. The newcomer presentation, that's just, it's mind-blowing, and it really just speaks to the foundation that WUSD has to be able to, within a year, right? I love the fact that you started with a dream. What's your biggest dream? The fact that we start that conversation that way and we manifested it. Just imagine, and I know our teachers are doing that with our students. It's just, what's the dream, and what can really happen. So I believe the soil is rich. I'm going to believe that the momentum is this is, I've been on the board now for 2 years, going on 3, I think. So it feels good to be moving in the direction with intention and with the mission in mind. So gracias and thank you.
Let's see. Come on. Vietnamese, thank you.
Oh,
Ms. Tran. Probably the only one who understands that in this room. But no, really excited, and just she is a treasure. She is a WSD treasure, has been for some time. Our video, it's just, you're the heart of our ELL program. You're the heart of so many things. As with many of us, as I'm looking throughout the room. So we really love the fact that everybody, all staff, including you, Dr. Hildreth, and Yorgos and Mario, you bring your heart every single day, and I appreciate that. And again, it is not, I feel bad because I should have actually said this was an information item before an action item, so that's on me. I apologize. as we were looking over that agenda item to digest a little bit more, but we are absolutely 100% excited. Like I said, I'm an alumni of a program like this. It just has to, kind of just work it a little bit more. I love our students. I love that they are in the community performing. We were at I was at the Mediterranean Festival, and the Sea Monkeys and the band were there at the festival. So just really grateful for us to kind of get back to being in public, right, and centering ourselves in the kids again. And having Elliot here it just feels good. It feels good. Thank you, Clerk Venegas, that where we're headed is the right direction. And it's all thanks to a strategic plan that was developed during a really rough time. So I think we have to, rising from the ashes was what I think, like that, all that work was happening in a really, really hard time. So grateful for your leadership around that. With that said, that's the end of my comments. And we are going to move on to item number S, future board agenda items, Measure Z, progress update on next month. And then review of coordinated program budgets also next month. Follow up on meeting on PLAs to be D. And there's a couple assignments for the facilities sub, as Vice President Kirby Gonzalez had mentioned. And then we have the board governance calendar revisions also in October. And I would say, just for the edification of this, to bring back the aspiring administrators for the aspiring program. So, assuming in October or sometime this month. Okay. All right. Anything else that we have to add? Okay. Seeing that there are none, we're done.
Don't run.